making the rich and the wealthy.
All right, Congressman Rush, today Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke held an unprecedented press conference where he says that the federal deficit is not sustainable, that the warning from Standard & Poor's last week that the U.S. credit rating could be downgraded should have been a warning. And yet we are being told of the consequences of defaulting on our debt if the ceiling isn't increased. What do you propose? There is a
number of different opportunities that we may have. The one thing that's not sacrosanct in our discussion or in the whole budget deliberation should be looking at the defense budget, where there's enormous waste, but there is still no real outcry, and there's still no effort. Look at the subsidies.
Let me let Congressman Roskam get in. Well, hang on, because we have limited time. Congressman Roskam, what about that? The defense budget, which forms a big chunk of the federal deficit.
House Republicans in this continuing resolution to clean up last year's work, where Speaker Pelosi didn't pass a budget, actually advocated and proposed and moved in H.R. 1 a lower defense spending number than the president proposed. I think what is the urgency of this, Eddie, cannot be overstated. The federal government is borrowing 40 cents on the dollar, so the ability to go into old models and these old passé arguments is completely hackneyed. But I think the public has a right to know the nature of these issues.
At the same time, we are still giving tax subsidies. Okay, with tax subsidies to the oil industry in one respect, to the in agriculture, to the agribusiness. We're still giving tax subsidies that we can ill afford. So what I'm saying, if you want to balance the budget, then don't just balance the budget looking at middle class, poor, working class people, those who are suffering, those who are the majority of your constituents, and mine. Look at some of these fat cats. Look at the fat cats.
What about that, Congressman Roskam? Speaker Boehner surprised many by saying he is open to the idea of taking back these tax subsidies to the oil companies. Do you agree with him?
If you look at the details of this plan that was passed a couple of weeks ago, by broadening the base and lowering the rate, you begin to put all of these things in play. How attractive would it be for a worldwide American company to have its tax rate lowered so it can repatriate money and bring things back here? That ultimately
but is that actually working when we're giving tax breaks to oil companies, and where are this repatriation that you're talking about?
Well, repatriation is an issue that's before the Ways and Means Committee constantly. But Eddie, the ultimate issue here is how do you drive towards a fiscal plan that makes sense? The president's plan, with all due respect to President Obama, he proposed a budget that was laughed off the pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune. They said it's not serious. It doesn't deal with the crisis that's upon us. And to suggest now that the president should get a blank check in a debt ceiling vote is, I think, irresponsible.
Congressman Rush, one of the ways that Congressman Ryan's budget proposal talks about cutting spending is in reforming Medicare. One of the ways that he is proposing is by giving a subsidy to seniors to
make sure the insurance companies
buy private insurance plans.
Well, in essence, what you're saying, Eddie, is that we want to make sure that the insurance companies get this boondoggle, get theirs off the top, which has been part of the problem in the past. We continually reward these mega corporations. We always blink when it comes down to get to a question of whether or not we're going to actually tax them fairly. And then we look beyond them and we try to make the little guy, the little hard-working woman, the struggling students, we want to make them pay more than their share. And when you say you want to expand the base, well, you can't expand the base.
Congressman, what about this reform of Medicare that's in the Paul Ryan budget?
It's modeled on Medicare Part D, which currently exists and is incredibly successful and popular. It says that a senior chooses, based on a series of choices that Medicare presents to them, the money goes directly from Medicare to the insurance company that ultimately provides it. Now, here's the point.
But is it rewarding insurance companies, as Congressman Rush is saying?
When they've been brought in under Part D, it's not about rewarding insurance companies. It's about high levels of patient satisfaction, very high popularity if you poll seniors on Medicare Part D. And ultimately, Eddie, what it did was it brought in costs at 40% less than projected. So here's the bottom line. There is nobody that with a straight face that can tell you that Medicare, as it currently is fashioned, is going to exist in the future. It will be insolvent in 10 years, less than 10 years. The question is, do you continue to move on a pathway that we know will crater, or alternatively, do you say to people 54 and below, we're going to put you on a pathway to have the same type of coverage that Bobby and I have.
I have been in the Congress now for 20 years. And I tell you, 10 years ago, Peter, there was the same argument, that Medicare was going to be insolvent in 10 years. That was 20 years ago when I first got to Congress. This is the same argument. It never happened. Okay, that's not to say it won't happen in the future. But let's be realistic, and let's be practical, and let's be fair to the American people. All right, the 1% of the American economy is, 90% of the American economy is controlled by 1% of the citizens in this country. If you want to talk about balancing the base and really making every American contribute to the wherewithal of the nation, then you got to look at this 1%.
We're going to have to leave it there, Congressman. And my thanks to both Congressman Peter Roskam and Bobby Rush. We'd like to hear how you believe Congress should tackle the rising national debt. Go to our website, WTTW.com/Chicago Tonight, and post your thoughts on our discussion board. There's much more Chicago Tonight ahead, so stay with us.